So it's always something that's on our mind as a practitioner. Am I over-servicing them? Would I be seen to be seeing this person too many times? Do they feel like I'm over-servicing them? We might have challenges as a business owner with younger, less experienced practitioners, trying to get them to not over-service, but also understand when they are or not. Well, I'm going to show you a very, very simple way, and it's involving one phrase that you guys can implement right now. Train your team, train yourself. That will always ensure that you are never over-servicing, and you can never be seen to be over-servicing either. Let's get stuck in right now. So as I was saying just before that little intro clip, it's probably the biggest fear that many of us have as practitioners, that are we seeing a person too many times? Or more so, is it perceived or seen by someone else that we are actually over-servicing? And let's be honest, it's probably a practitioner's worst nightmare to think that someone might be judging you and trying to say that you're, like if you saw someone 8 times a week, it's over-servicing. Now, I don't know anyone who does see anyone 8 times per week, but that's the nth degree of this. The fact is, we need to make sure that we're comfortable in our heads of what we're doing. And this is a topic that's been talked about for many, many years. Everyone has their own thoughts and processes on it. There's been a lot of time where many people have butted head with, workers' compensation bodies and things like that, independent physio consultants and stuff like that, in regards to what's fair and reasonable, what's should be able to be done, and there's a lot of butting heads at different times as to whether someone could do it better and this and that. The fact of the matter is this. You obviously need to make sure that you are ethically motivated for what you're doing. You need to be able to professionally justify what you're doing and why. Obviously, all of those are in place. But I'll give you one of the key avenues right now in regards to what works best and the best way to train this, not just for yourself, but for your team. And it's using an 8-word phrase that I'll give you in a moment, and then I'll explain how you can actually train that so that we can make sure that we never over-service. And we can never be seen to be in that situation as well. Because let's be honest, perception is reality. And so if we get into a situation where people might perceive that that's the case, then ultimately the reality in their head is that exact situation. So even though it might be furthest from the truth, perception is reality, and we need to know that, particularly in these type of ethical considerations and environments. So when we go forward and do this with team members, it becomes really crucial for us to get this right. We want to make sure that everyone's singing from the same playbook, that the team is in tune, they know what we're doing, how we're doing it, and that it makes it really simple for us to be able to progress people on the same mentality as what we're actually on as well. And so when you use this phrase, it enables you to always be in check with, the mentality and the NLP behind this is, am I doing this the right way? Is this the best thing moving forward? It's a little stop check moment for our brain to go, hang on a sec, is this right? Could I be doing it differently? What should I be doing, etc. And so this is where you always will keep your ethical compass and your moral compass pointing to true north for you to make the right decision moving forward. So ultimately, the 8 words are simply this: what else can I do for this patient? All right. Now you can swap around the can and should. What else should I do for this patient? All right. And if you'd rather use the word client or patient at the end, feel free to jump in. Either way, it's still 8 words. Some people like patient, some people like client. Let's not get into that debate as to what it feels. Again, perception in your head will give you the reality of what you want to say as a result. So what else should I do with this patient? Or what else can I do for this patient? Client. And that becomes the phrase that you guys can work with all the time with yourself and with your team. Now, we've got a specific model. It's called the patient pathway. It's one of my trademarked models from about a decade ago, and it goes through the patient flow of how clients move through your business. And the second part of this is the profit drivers, which is where we start to actually look at the upsell, cross-sell, value add, etc. Now, it is called profit drivers. Don't get scared because we're talking something to do with money and finances. But the reality of the situation is this is where your profit will lie in the business, is by making this ethical decision around what you need to do next. And you've got to choose one of those three parts. So the 8 words gets inserted into that part of the process and that model. What else can I do for this patient? What else should I do for this patient? And when you do that, it opens your brain to actually saying, right, what else should or could I be doing? So it opens you up to, rather than just particularly inexperienced practitioners will always just sort of think unilaterally. They'll think, oh, I'll see you again on Thursday, or I'll see them again next week. And it creates that mentality where it might be, see you next week, see you next week, see you next week, that over-servicing type perception. And this is exactly what we're trying to avoid. So by putting this into place in this avenue, what we actually enable ourselves to do is to open up the framework of our mindset and our brain to say, what do I, and here's the kicker, I'll just sidestep here for a sec. If you're someone who is unscrupulous, someone who doesn't play by the rules, someone who is unethical, then you're always going to look for the outs in any of these situations. So it doesn't really come into effect. But for the vast majority of us, we are going to do what's ethical in all situations. And it's always that whole thing that it's always the really small minority that wrecks it for the rest of us, right? But for all of the good people, and I'm hoping that everyone listening to this is one of the 99.999% that do the right thing and that are ethical, then your brain is always going to go to a positive place. It's going to go to an optimistic place. It's going to go to an ethical consideration place, so that when that brain hears yourself saying, what else should I do for this patient? You open up. It's like lifting your head. Your shoulders go back and you think, what is best? And you start to clinically reason in your own head what is ethically best. Now, you don't sit there and go, ooh, what should I say and do? What's ethical? What's moral? But your brain is opened up into that neural pathway to actually go, well, hang on, right now we should be actually doing hydrotherapy, because, and the way you start to justify it and understand what's fair and reasonable, what's clinically responsible, and as a net result, you're now actually on the right path to making the best ethical choice and decision for that client or patient at that point in time. If you're one of those very few people that are unethical and unscrupulous, your brain will always switch on at that time and go, oh, what could I get away with? Like, what could I do? I don't know, don't really know, but I'll just do this instead, right? So unfortunately, there's nothing you can do for those people. You're in that situation, right? You can yell at them and abuse them all you want till the cows come home, but ultimately at the end of the day, that's the way they're wired. So let's not get into that side of it. But for the vast majority of all of us, your brain is then set up to be able to say, okay, great, here's what I think we need to do next. And so then what you're doing is you're setting your brain up to start thinking about those profit drivers that I mentioned before. You're going to start thinking about the upsell opportunity, the cross-sell opportunity, the value add. And all three of those become a positive, ethical situation that your brain is going to be able to then decide upon. So if you lower back pain or something post-surgery, like I said something about hydrotherapy before, if it's what else can I do for this patient, or what should I do for this patient, you think, well, hydrotherapy, because, and in that split second, your brain runs through, yes, because research says this, and I know that my clients with this, and this would help with that, and it gets justified in your brain, and that is the ethical consideration for you to be able to say, here's what we need to do next. Right? It also enables you to start to go, right, well, when we get to a point where we're going to get them more self-managed, what else can I do? You start to go, right, well, maybe I need to give them a piece of equipment. Maybe we need to give them a spiky ball to actually do some soft tissue release techniques. Maybe we need to get them a Swiss ball to be able to create a bit of an unstable platform at home to be able to do some of these rehab exercises. And so what it is it means you're actually driving forward what's best for them, based on what is ethically fair and reasonable in their best interests to get the best outcome moving forward. All because you use these 8 words. And that's why it's so powerful. I've done a lot of neuro-linguistics programming over the years, worked with some amazing sales and marketing people, and I've always been able to move these avenues with the best intentions for the patient, ethical consideration, what's fair and reasonable, always playing by the rules and keeping those type of avenues in place, but also being able to make sure that we have businesses that are highly profitable, highly growth driven. It's about building people personally and professionally, and we put these in place all the time. So if you want to make sure that you can build your team, build your own mentality, as well as maybe some inexperienced therapists as well, bringing in those 8 words, what else could I do for this client? Or what else should I do for this patient, is the best 8 words that you can possibly do to frame up the right NLP for the brain to be able to sit back or stand there and make the right judgment call of what is clinically responsible, what's fair and reasonable, what is in their best interest moving forward. And you will never have to have that discussion in your own head about should I do this or what would this person say, because you always know that you're doing the right thing for the client at any one time. So use that, train your team, always think, what else can I do for this patient? What else can I do for this patient? It lifts up your utilization, it lifts up your spec, sessions per episode of care. Client visit average is the new fancy way that the practice management software likes to now use. But spec we've been using for 12 or 15 years. All of those things lift up and improve. We have better retention, we get better client outcomes, and your business grows as a net result. So that's the best way and the easiest way to empower your team members, to empower yourself to make the right ethical choice, and to always never have to feel. There's a big oxymoron, always never. So you never have to actually feel like the perception might be that you're over-servicing, because you're always going to be able to positively say, well, if I did this, this would also help them with that. Okay, well, what should I be doing? I should do this and this because of these reasons. It keeps you centered. It keeps you on the right directional path. It is super powerful. Go and implement it. I'll talk to you again very soon. Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Profitable Practice Podcast. I would love nothing more than for you to be able to leave a review. I get so much joy out of listening and reading the amazing things that you guys say about this. So please subscribe to our channel, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Let's get some more fantastic information out there so all of us can grow the industry together. Cheers for now.